Okay, so this is trig equation. This is the sine and cosine problem under the trig equation section of the test. Um, this is 16, I think, or number 17, depending on which version of the test that you had. It's a pretty distinctive one. The thing that I see first here is that we have cosine squared and sine in the problem. So we're going to substitute for the squared. And keep the singlet. The only thing we can change sine into is 1 over cosecant. And that's not helpful. So if you need to write out your identity, so that you can substitute in there, cosine squared is the same as 1 minus sine squared. So the rest of the problem is going to stay the same. I'm just going to change my cosine squared to 1 minus sine squared. And then my problem is all in terms of sine, which is helpful. The next thing we do is distribute through our 2. And then I'm going to take everything onto the same side of the equation. I would rather factor with my squared term positive. So I'm going to subtract 2 and add 2 sine squared. A lot of mistakes on the test with this combining like term situation, just without we had a lot of our friends not showing this step, and then with errors just with that constant. So make sure, take the time, switch that sign when you move across the equal sign. If you like u's instead of signs, this is where you could let signs equal u. You'd have u squared plus, or 2u squared plus 13u plus 6 that you'd be factoring. 2 times 6 is 12. Two numbers that multiply to 12 and add to 13 are 12 and 1. So my first and last terms stay the same. And my 13u becomes 12u plus 1u. And then I can cut it in half and factor by grouping. So here I can take out a 2u, and I can take out just a 1. It's just a placeholder. And then I have my factors are 2u plus 1 and u plus 6. If you want to go ahead, that's all equal to 0, of course, all the way down there. If you want to go ahead and solve for u before you substitute back in, that's absolutely fine. So here u is negative 1/2, and u is negative 6, and our u is equal to sine of x. So sine of x equals negative 6 does not give us a solution. Sine cannot be equal, sine of x cannot be equal to negative 6. But we can get a solution out of sine of x is equal to negative 1/2. Sine is 1/2 at our sixths. And so I know I'm going to have something pi over 6. And sine is negative in quadrants 3 and 4. So my quadrant 3 sixth is 7 pi over 6, and my quadrant 4 sixth is 11 pi over 6. Since those, when I make that my little diagram, they don't make a straight line, I'm just going to plus 2 pi k both of them. So the key there at the beginning of the problem was make sure you keep the singlet and substitute for the squared. And then be careful when you're getting everything onto the same side of the equation and combining those like terms.